Hello, hi. My name is Abiodun Banner. I will be discussing differentiation, the Tomlinson model. First, let's discuss what exactly differentiation is. Differentiation is basically the response to the learner's needs. As we're all aware, every learner has a different need that needs to be fulfilled. Everyone learns differently. They have different ways of processing information. And since we have about, let's say for high school, 30 kids in a classroom, we need to make sure that we are reaching each and every single one of those 30 kids. And the way to do that is to differentiate our instruction to make sure that each student is getting what we need them to get out of our lessons. So by differentiating, we are responding to the learner's needs. Now there are three different things that should be differentiated, and I drew a picture here of the Tomlinson model right here. Okay, so the first thing that should be differentiated is the content. Now, when we're differentiating the content, this is us differentiating what it is that we want to teach. The content is basically what we get from the curriculum, what we are required to teach. We can differentiate the content and how we, what it is that we are given to our students. Now the process, differentiating the process, is the next what of differentiation, and that's basically how we teach it to them, how the learner actually takes in what it is that we are trying to give to them, what it is that we're trying to instruct them or educate them on. The last thing is the product, which would be basically how we would evaluate whether they have actually acquired the knowledge we require them to acquire. So first we can differentiate the content, which is what it is that we are trying to teach. Second, the process, which is how it is that the students are going to learn or how we are going to teach this content. And third would be the product, and that's basically how the students are going to show us that they have actually mastered what it is that we wanted them to master. Now there are three different ways or the hows of differentiation. We just discussed the three whats. Now we're going to discuss the three hows. Now the first thing is by their learning profile. Now what that basically means is how the way the student takes in and processes information. Now that can basically deal with either whether they're a visual learner, kinesthetic learner, auditory learner, hands-on, any of those things. That differentiates their learning profile. Now we decide how to differentiate by either the pre-assessment, surveys, we can do learning portfolios, things like that. That allows us to know what exactly and how exactly we're going to differentiate. And once we have the surveys, the pre-assessments, and the things that give us a broader idea or more specific idea of our students, we can differentiate by learning profile. And that's basically how they take in the information that is given. We can differentiate by their interest, because of course if you find something more interesting, you'll pay more attention to it. So if we've taken the surveys and we see that our students are more interested in a specific idea or a specific topic, we can incorporate that topic into our lesson and differentiate it according to their interests to make sure that it has relevance to them. And last but not least, another how would be by their readiness level. As we're all aware, we have different ability levels in our class. Some kids more come to class more ready to work independently, while other kids may need more support and more help. So we can also differentiate by readiness. Now there was the components to the differentiation instruction graphic, which is this is a Tomlinson model, and as you can see, here are the three at the bottom. Here are the three whats that we are differentiating: the content, the process, and the product. And here are the three hows right here: the learning profile, the interest, and the readiness. Now let's say we wanted to, there are 9 ways to differentiate. First, let's say we wanted to talk about the learning profile here. Under learning profile, we can differentiate the content, the process, and the product, which gives us 3 ways. Now under learning profile, if we wanted to differentiate the content, what we can do is take different sources. So not just the textbook, reading, which may be good for visual learners and auditory learners if they're hearing someone read it to them, but also maybe graphics, pictures, maps, diagrams, videos. There's an ample amount of different ways that we can present the same idea, but would be more appealing to the different learners under different learning profiles. That would be how we can differentiate the content. So we're still giving the same content, but just presented it to them in a different way. Also, the process would be either allowing them to do group work, either through a drawing, a lecture, things like that. That would also be by their learning profile, because it still caters to their different learning styles, like whether they like to either, work in groups, the collaborative learning, whether they like to see it through a drawing, through a lecture, through a video, things like that, how we're going to present it to them. That's differentiating by process. While differentiating by product, how they're going to present it to us, they can either have the option to draw us a representation of the knowledge they've just acquired, a lecture, an essay, a video, something that they can show us in their own individual learning profile that they've actually acquired the knowledge that we have given to them. So under learning profile, we can differentiate the content, the process, and the product. Next, under interest, we can also differentiate, and here's interest. Let's refer back to this. Here's interest. And then we have the three things here that also can go under interest. Now, when we're talking about interest, we're basically determining whether we're going to stay within the content or outside the content. Like, for example, I'm a math teacher, so I will use math examples. Let's say we were talking about inequalities. Now, the content, we can either stay within the content, basically showing them how to use inequalities, or outside the content, showing them where the inequalities came from, why we have inequalities, and why we do inequalities. So they're still getting the same basic knowledge of inequalities, but they're two different ways which can influence their interest. Some students just want to learn how to do it. What should I do when I'm presented a problem? While other students want to know, well, why do we even do inequalities? So we're differentiating the content while still staying within the content, still staying within what it is that we want to teach them. Also, the process through interest also allows students to do either the I search or the orbitals or the centers. Any of those three things can also work while differentiating by interest, and that's the process as to which they assimilate the information that is given. And the product, once again, we can stay within the content or outside the content. That means the student can become a master of something specific. Like, we've all gotten the basics and the general idea of inequalities, but now they can either stay within the context and show us the mastery of their knowledge, or they can stay outside the content and show us the mastery of what it is that they have acquired, and how by their interest, whether in the content or things that are related to the content, and it's just basically on their interest level. So that's how we can differentiate. Sorry, I'm plugging in my computer. That's how we can differentiate by interest, not only the content but the process and product as well. So that's 6 of the methods of differentiation that we have just discussed. The other 3 methods would also fall under, this would fall under by their readiness level. And this is what basically most of us have been doing already. Here's readiness, and under readiness we still have the 3 what's under readiness. Here are they. So by readiness level, which is over here, here are the 3 what's under readiness. Now, how to differentiate, the students are at different levels in the class, so how to differentiate the content by readiness. Readiness refers to how ready a student is to work independently. So with the content, we can have leveled text. That means for different levels, the same information is given, just at a different level. So leveled text would be how we can differentiate the content. The process would be either by, compacting or cubing or giving them contracts or, tiered learning, things like that. That's how we would differentiate the process, meaning how much support would we give them, or, how would we give them a problem and just allow them to go at it and learn on their own, or would we give them hints and clues and things like that so that they can still come to their own conclusion and they're still learning the same thing, but it's at a different process. Some kids will be working independently to come to that conclusion themselves, while other kids will receive more support from the teacher. That's the process as to which they're taking in the information. And by readiness, the product is basically can deal with how much instruction will you give on the test, how much support would you allow the kids to have? How much time would you give them? Time tests, giving extended time, giving bigger fonts, things like that is how we would differentiate the product that it is that we want to get back and I guess assess the knowledge that they have gained. So the 9 different graphics, the 9 ways to differentiate would be under learning profile. That's the content, the process, the product. Through interest, and that would also be the content, the process, the product, and through readiness, which would once again be the content, the process, the product. Thank you.